Welcome to the Secret Math of Money. This show is meant for entertainment purposes only. I hold no financial certifications or information that is not generally available. No guarantees are stated or implied. It is your money, and you are responsible for any decisions you make regarding it.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of the Secret Math of Money. It has been a while since I posted. I'm sorry about that, but got a little special show for you today. It's going to be short, but I want to talk to you today about school loans because actually everybody's getting hit with school loans right now, or not right now, but just in general. School loans for colleges it's just killing our economy to the point where I read somewhere they said the next the next generation, their biggest financial problem, is going to be paying for their school loans and their medical care. So let's talk about school loans. First of all, not a licensed financial planner or anything like that. So take everything I'd say with a grain of salt. Hey Brad, hey Doreen. I used a couple of websites for the research for this. One was NerdWallet. You've probably seen their commercials all over the place. And another one was called the simpledollar.com. Those are some of the resources I use. So again, this is just everything in here is my opinion. So what on average, here's the crazy. On average, people graduate from college with about $40,000 worth of debt. Okay, just process that, $40,000. And those are some of the lucky ones, because some people, it's up to $100,000. Merry Christmas, Doreen, of debt. And there's about a 10% default rate. How does this happen? Well, the explosion of college debt. When I went to school, 30 some years ago, I had some debt, but I didn't have it like this. So what happened? And basically what's happened over the last, say, 10 or 15 years is that public education has risen. The cost of college has just risen like crazy. And it's to the point where, you hear people talking about it a lot about, should we even go to college? And that's a whole nother issue. But, is a college degree worth it? And I would say there's a lot of people out there with master's degrees. What's up, Coop? A lot of people out there with master's degrees and PhDs who can't find jobs who are saying those college degrees are not worth it. I'm not going to give my opinion either way because I'm biased. And my opinion is just my opinion. But so we'll take that with a grain of salt. But let's just talk about, how did this happen? How do people get into college debt? And I'm going to take a different spin on it. It starts long before college. College debt, go back to the ninth grade. Go back to your last 4 years of high school. And I said this on a previous show, but to me, from a financial perspective, 9th through 12th grade is the most important years in your life. Those are the most important years for your financial health. Why is that? Because from 9th to 12th grade is when colleges look at your grades. That's when they start actually looking at the grades. Because when you graduate after 12th grade and you start wanting to go to school, when they decide how much money you might be eligible for, they're looking at your grades. So take two people, two identical students. One of them from 9th to 12th grade had a GPA of 2.5. The other one had a GPA of 4.0. Everything else was the same. When they get ready to go to college, they both want to go to school. One's got a 4.0, one's got a 2.5. Now I know there's a whole lot of other factors that are involved in how they make the decision, but just for simplicity's sake, the one who's got a 4.0 will probably be offered a lot more scholarships than one who's got a 2.5. So say they both go to school and the cost of school, of the college they choose the same college, and it's $50,000 a year. So you're talking $200,000 of education over 4 years. The one with the 4.0, he gets, say, $45,000 in scholarships a year. So he comes out of school, or she comes out of school with $20,000 in debt. The other one comes out of school with $200,000 in debt in school loans. Okay? And now, we're excluding other scholarships and things you might qualify for and this like that. But so these two people come out of school. One's got 20,000, one's got 200,000 in debt. What happens? Look about how their lives are different. Because that school loan, that one with the $200,000 school loan, you got 30 years to pay that off if you extend it and refinance it and things like that. So you're talking a house, a $200,000 house that you can never move into, and you walk out of school with that debt already on your head. The other person, they got $20,000 in debt, which is not a small amount, but it's a lot easier to pay off. So say if it takes that person 10 years to pay off that $20,000 debt. Okay, so they're like 23 when they graduate, they're 33 years old. They are debt free. And I mean, again, a lot of assumptions in this. They can then start looking at houses. They can start looking at other kinds of property they might want to buy. This other person is still paying this school loan. And I don't know how much it is a month. It might be $500-$600 a month. That payment is going to reduce your standard of living, because when you start looking at houses or apartments or whatever, cars or whatever, you got a big nut, a hole in your budget every month of $400 or $500. Okay, and yeah, when you first start out and working, that's a big portion of your income. So these two people, again, the only difference in them is what they did from 9th to the 12th grade. So fast forward 30 years from the time they graduate, they're both 53 years old. The one who had the 2.5, now they're finally paying off their debt. Now they're finally getting back all their income. Now they can really start looking at houses. They can start looking at living the lifestyle to which they would like to become accustomed based on their income, because they don't have this big hole of $500 or $600 a month. The other person might be on their second or third house because they paid off their loan in 10 years. And from the time of 33, they then were able to use that same, these people had to do the same job, same income, $500 different. Now imagine $500 difference on what you can pay in rent, or what you can put on a mortgage, or what you can drive. Okay, that's the difference. So again, those 4 years from 9th to 12th grade, those 4 years changed both of their lives and sent them both in very, very different directions. Okay, and it had nothing to do with their credit rating or anything. It was those 4 years and what they were able to be offered. So to me, that's one of the problems, is we don't emphasize enough in school the grades in those 4 years. Now, granted, everybody's not going to college, and everybody doesn't want to go to college, and everybody shouldn't go to college. You know, you want to go to trade school, whatever. I'm just looking at the college crowd because those are the people that are coming out of school with a lot of debt. Now, okay, so you come out of college and you got this debt. What can you do? I think the standard term is 10%. Most people refinance it up to 30, it's 10 years, and they refinance it out to 30 years. Well, there's good things and there's bad things about that. If you refinance your debt, your college debt, and or consolidate it, you have 2 or 3 or 4 different loans at different different interest rates, and you consolidate all those loans down to one. From a convenient standpoint, it's better for you, because now you just have one school loan. You have one bill every month you got to pay, and usually the interest rate that you're paying is a weighted average of the other interest rates and what balance was and so on. So you get convenience if you refinance. Again, you might be able to get a better interest rate, which means your payments might be lower. Could improve your credit rating. Credit rating is very important. We talked about that before. But be careful if you refinance, because there's some benefits you may lose because of the refinancing. As far as repayment, if you have a job that reimburses you, you could lose some of that. I don't know, but all I'm saying is, before you just flat out and just say, hey, I'm going to refinance my school debt, your private debt, or your federal debt, make sure you look into it, you do some research. The biggest reason I think people want to refinance their debt, a couple of big reasons. But one is, to get that lower payment. Because, you should start working. You got this big, maybe your payment can go from $600 a month to $200 a month. You're like, oh, I can handle that. Cool. The downside of that is, okay, you go from 10 years to 30 years, you're going to pay a whole lot more in interest over that 30 years than you would have paid in that 10 years. It'll be a lot less painful, but in the end, you're going to pay a lot more interest on that money. Okay? Interest to me is just what the cost is to borrow a block of money. That's what interest is. Yep, Nunzio, thanks for agreeing with me. Appreciate that. Read the notes, guys. It's hot in here. I'm sorry. But, anyway, but yeah, the longer repayment period, the longer, no, it does this too, y'all. The longer, and for those people watch later on, but the longer you refinance, again, it's easy. It's like, oh, it's easier. The payment is lower. We'll talk about credit cards one day too, especially those 18 months same as cash. We'll talk about that. But because they make it easy for you to just pay them more money. And that's one of the things you look at when you look at going from a 10-year loan to a 30-year loan. You know, they make it easy for you. Oh, the rate, the payment goes down, but man, I'm paying this over 30 years. That's a mortgage. And that's a mortgage for a house that you can never move into. Okay, that's a house that don't have the bathrooms you want. That's a house. You're paying a house note. Okay, so you got to remember that. So I'm not saying to not refinance. I'm not saying that. I'm saying what you need to do is really, really think about what you're doing. But and the other thing too is when you have public and private loans, you can't consolidate them together under one loan. You have to do your federal one way, and your private the other way. But you guys read up on that. I'm not here to be your number one source. I'm here to pique your interest and say, okay, if I need to do something, I need to do some research on it. But the thing is, excuse me, again, school loans, they're bad and they are getting worse. Okay, the cost of school is continuing to go up. Okay, it is continuing to rise. And you think it's bad now, it's going to be worse in 10 years. Okay, and it's continuing to get worse. Okay, so here's the thing. So now switch from how do you kind of prevent it? 30-year loan comes out to about 2.5 times the loan amount. Yeah, think about that. You owe $200,000 and over 30 years, you're going to pay them $600,000-$700,000 easy. Think about that, okay? What can you do to prevent school loan? Well, the simplest way is just not go to school. That's the simplest way. But what's the downside of that? You don't go to school, you don't have that degree. You can't, there's certain jobs you can't get. Nunzio, a good point. The tax advantages outweigh anything. I would say this to that point, before you refinance your loans, your school loans especially, talk to your accountant. All right, talk to your accountant. Okay. On a mortgage, you can write off your interest. I don't think you can write off your interest on school loans. Okay, so the tax advantage is very minimal. Okay, because you can't write it off. Okay, just like rent, I can write off my mortgage. I can write off business expenses. I can't write off my school loans. And another thing to think about, and I don't know, but the way I know the tax code works, be careful of this. If you get forgiveness, if you have a job that will pay off some of your loans, if you work a certain number of years, be sure or look into it and make sure that you will not get that, whatever they forgave you will not be counted as income. Think about that a minute. You have $50,000 in school loans and you work for this company for 5 years and they say, you work for us for 5 years, we'll pay off that $50,000. Boom. Now when your taxes come, they go, oh, well, that $50,000 was income, so you got to pay tax on that money. Even though you never really got it, you kind of got it, but you never got a check in your hand that you can go out and have fun with. So before you do any refinancing on anything like that, on your school loans, your consolidations, talk to your accountant. Don't talk to, Quicken Loans or not Quicken Loans, I'm sorry, TurboTax to get a real accountant and talk to them, because this is the kind of decision that you can mess yourself up. But now the reality of life, okay, you have this loan. You come out of college, you got a job, your first job, and you have a monthly payment of $700 a month. What do you do? First of all, you pay it. One way or another, you pay it. Why? Because this is the government, as they used to say. The government don't play. They will find you and they will garnish your check. And if you don't know what garnishing is, they will garnish your check. And you think FICA took a lot of your money? When the government come in and take your money, they take all of your money, all right? And it's like, boom, and nothing you can do about it. But here's when, we did a show, I did a show a couple of months back on doing a personal budget. And one of the things I said in that show is that the most important thing of doing a personal budget is discipline. You can write down numbers all day, willy-nilly, willy and nilly. You can just write the numbers down. But if you don't have the discipline to stick to that budget, then you're wasting your time. And that is the truth. If you don't stick to your budget, you are wasting your time. You're just writing numbers down. Financial discipline is one of the hardest things for people to get, to have. And it's nothing personal. People of all income brackets have problems with financial discipline. What is financial discipline? Financial discipline is not just spending your money, because you got to realize everything around you in life is built to break your financial discipline. You go grocery shopping. Why do you think they got all that stuff right by the registers? Okay? Right by the registers. They got all the gum and every candy and everything right there. Why do you think they have that there? For those spur of the moment, oh, I just want to buy this. That's why they have it there. Okay? When you go to the soup aisle and they got the soup, not even, it's like, make the soup alphabetical, call it a day. No, they want you looking around and around. So all these things are designed to break down your financial discipline. And as Nunzio just said, your financial discipline means living within your means. I have friends in their 40s who go on vacations every year, out of the country, wherever, still paying their school loans. Me personally, I couldn't do that. If I had school loans, thank God I paid mine off for about 5 or 6 years. But if I had school loans, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going on vacation nowhere. Okay? Hey, sis, my sister-in-law, I'm not going on vacation. I'm trying to pay. And that's kind of what I did my first 5 or 6 years I was working. I worked 2 jobs and went to grad school at night. My company was paying for it, but I was paying off my undergrad. And I was paying, that was just me. And I'm not bragging, saying I had this great financial discipline. No, because I have not had financial discipline in other areas of my life. And that's a whole nother book for another time and none of your business. But my point is, that is the biggest thing we have. The biggest challenge, I think, is financial discipline. It's writing down a budget and sticking to it. Now, school loans are a different breed. That's a different whole kind of debt. That is like a house. That is like you're 23 or 24 years old and you walked out of college and bought a house, but you still got to pay rent somewhere else. So you still got to live in your mom and daddy basement. But you own this house that you can't see, you can't touch, you can't take nobody to, okay? You can't write off or nothing. If you file for bankruptcy, think about this, if you file for bankruptcy, you can get rid of all your debts, except your student loans. They wrote that specifically in the code, so that mess will follow you to your grave. And I've heard stories of people dying and their parents getting told, yo, your kid owed us some money, you got to pay it back. Okay? School loans ain't no joke. Pardon my ebonics for a minute there. But my point, let me do this. Yeah, okay, so y'all can read my sweatshirt. Okay. Sorry, Newberg. But my point is this. You got to have financial discipline. That's number one. You got these loans. Okay, sit down and write down your budget. Put your budget together and say, okay, how do I pay this? I got to pay this. I ain't got to go to happy hour. I don't have to eat out. I don't have to go out to lunch every day. I don't have to have a new car every 2 years. But I got to pay this school loan off. Get that thing paid off. That should be your first priority. Well, I want to take a break and go to the Bahamas. Nah, bruh. Pay that school loan off. Get that monkey off your back. Okay. Once you do that, then you can start living. You can, as the movie said, you can exhale. Once you do that, but you gotta get that monkey off your back before you can do anything. All right. So first of all, you got this problem. You got to have financial discipline. Second, and this is to the parents out there who have kids who are in high school or junior high or whatever. Talk to your kids if they want to go to college. Talk to them about what it is they want to do in life. Because when we came up 30 years ago, there was a whole thing about do what you want and the money will follow. That's what they used to tell us. Just do what you want and the money will follow. Just love your job. It doesn't matter. Love your job. Well, the reality of our economy now is, and my mother was a teacher. The reality of our oh yeah, we're going to talk about coupons and all that. That's right. But the reality of life now is you have to look at the earning power of the job you're going to get, and you got to make a serious comparison of that to what it's going to cost you to get that degree, to get that job. Because here's the thing. You go to most universities and you get a 4-year degree in biochemical engineering, computer science, music education, basket weaving. It's going to cost you the same amount of money. It's going to cost the same. The earning potential for all of those jobs is very different. Now, granted, you may not want to be a biochemical engineer. You may not want to be a computer scientist. You may not want to be a music teacher. You want to be this over here, and that's fine. But you got to start strategizing, and that means you may have to delay or defer your dream. I want to do this. Okay, but you know what I need to do before I can do this? I need to get this degree. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go get this other degree that I can come out and get a job. And I'm saying this from somebody who's been out there and couldn't find a job. Ain't no worse feeling in the world when you can't find a job. And I'm talking looking under every rock and crack and crevice everywhere, and you can't find a job. That's the worst thing. And you got a degree in something. You're like, there's no jobs out here. My advice to people is the first thing is get a degree, get your if you're going to college, get a degree in something that you somewhat enjoy, but also makes you employable. Now, once you have that degree and you have a job that can pay your bills, then you think about going back to night school. I did my master's at night. Okay, I had 2 jobs and got my master's degree. Then you think about going to night school or whatever and getting the degree maybe in something you want, but more importantly, maybe you can get your job to pay for part of that degree. Okay, but also you have a job to pay your bills. Okay, and that's the most important thing is you got to pay your bills. Particularly if you all of a sudden you get married or you have a child or whatever, you got to support your child. I know you say, well, my dream was always to be this, and yeah, you know what? I had a dream. Yeah, we won't go there. But I'm not saying to give up on your dream. I'm saying the path to your dream might be different than it would have been, than you expected it to be. So instead of being able to come out in 4 years and in your 5th year get this job, maybe you need to go around like this to make sure, because this is real talk. It's people out here can barely afford to feed their families. Point blank, cannot afford to, working full time, and then got to get part-time jobs. 2 people working full time in some places and can't afford an apartment. Okay, that's the reality of life. If your child talks to you and says, I want to be this, I want to be a teacher, and I'm not dumping on teachers by any respect, because I love teachers. I think they are grossly underpaid. My mother was a teacher. I have other teachers in my family. But the reality of teaching is teachers are not well paid in most states. And you see these stories of teachers who's a teacher by day, waitress by night, or wait person by night, or whatever, because they don't make enough money to pay their bills, or they're teaching this, and over the summertime they get another job. Now, if you don't mind that life, okay. If you don't mind, and I'm telling you from experience of growing up with a teacher, you don't mind very, very long days of correcting papers, of meeting with parents, of doing your lesson plans and things like that for very little money. If you don't mind that, fine. Go ahead and knock yourself out. But just understand what the reality is. Understand going in what the situation is. Understand that, okay, I'm never going to be comfortable. I'm never going to, unless I get into administration, I'm never going to have the big expensive car and the nice house and this and that. But I'm doing what I love. If that's important to you, do that. But it's also know that you're probably gonna, you may come out with a whole lot of debt depending on where you go. So, an alternative again to that is get a job in something, get a degree in something you can get a job in. Come out, get your teaching certificate. Go to night school. Okay, get your degree in that, and you have your teaching certificate. Then you can go and go into that field. But you have a plan B. That's the most important thing in this economy is having a plan B. Having something, well, if this don't work, I can go over there. Yeah. That is the most important thing is having something to fall back on. And if you put all your eggs in one basket, we're not even talking about the other big monkey in the room, big elephant in the room is medical expenses. Where people are, all of a sudden, boom, they get hit with medical expenses. And they're like, man, how can I pay this? And, but the reality now is your retirement, your 401k or whatever you get from work, that's for retirement if you're lucky. Chances are you're going to have to dip into your retirement to pay some bills, some school loans, some medical expenses. That's the reality. I know this may sound heartless, but I'm not talking about passion. I'm not talking about doing what you want to do. I'm talking about being able to support your family. And if you have a choice of following your dream or feeding your kids went out. That's just the point blank how it is. Okay, your kids went out. You're absolutely right. Now, your sacrifice is necessary. It goes back to what I said about financial discipline. Okay, it's easy to write up a budget. The challenge is sticking to it. And the other challenge is when you write your budget up and you realize that, oh, this budget, I'm going to be spending more than I bring in. I got to adjust this. What do I have to cut out? Maybe you can't have cable and internet. Maybe you have to go to a lower price cell phone plan. Maybe you can't get a new car every 2 or 3 or 4 years just because you want to. Okay, but those are the kinds of decisions that you're going to have to make, and they're primarily a result, a lot of times, of this education cost. Because education is crazy. I understand why people say it's not worth it. Because you got PhDs that can't get a job, and people say, well, the unemployment rate is low. The unemployment rate is low because they changed the way they count people. Okay, when I was unemployed in 2010 and 11, I was unemployed for 15 months, and I got unemployment that whole time. Now I think you get it something like 2 or 3 months, and after that you don't get it anymore. And when they stop paying you unemployment, they stop counting you. And they're not counting the people that are underemployed. They're not counting the people that have to work 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. Not because they want some Christmas spending money, but because they can't afford to live in their apartment with their spouse until they work 3 or 4 jobs. That's the reality. Okay. So, again, the goal of this was to talk about school loans, but the reality of it is the school loan problem can be solved in a couple of ways. Again, one is just not go to school, but that may be not feasible or what somebody wants to do. But another way, if you have school loans, if you find yourself in this situation where I got $100,000 in school loans, you just got to say to yourself, you know what? I got this. I got to pay for it. Till I pay for it, my life is going to be very Spartan. My life is going to be very different. Okay, I'm not going on vacations. Okay, I take my vacation time when I do staycations and I stay home. Okay, I'm going to watch my spending. I'm going to watch when I go out to lunch. If I go out to lunch every day, I'm going to start bringing my lunch in. As Nunzio said earlier in the notes, I'm going to start using coupons. Okay, I'm going to start living under my means because I want to pay this off as soon as possible. They said, well, you got 30 years to pay it off. You don't want to be paying this for 30 years. You know, there are stories, and I'm still trying to figure out how the math works, where people are paying and they paid, you know, $40,000 or $50,000 and their balance hasn't moved. Okay, because maybe they were late or something. You want to get this off you. You want, trust me, school loans, you want to get them off you as soon as possible. You want to pay those things off if you have them. Okay, because that's when you can start living your life. When you hear these people having $900, $1,000 a month in school loans, and it's crazy. So anyway, I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. That's the whole show. I'll try to be back again before I go back to work in 2 weeks. Thank God I'm off for a couple of weeks. But I'll try to come back again and do another show. But let me see if I hit my 30. Yep, 30 minutes right on. I'm the bomb. Look, go Tide. Go Tide. Anyway, everybody, I thank you for your time. I thank you for those who stuck around and paid something every month while they didn't charge us to get the balance down before repayment. Julie, good move. Good move. When you got some free money and you got to pay it back, pay it off while it's free. Boom. There you go. All right. That's a good way to end this show. But everybody else, thank you for your time. Thank you. I know this is Christmas Eve, and everybody would rather be out there shopping and spending money because y'all crazy. Ain't nobody buying me nothing, but that's all right. It's all good. I ain't mad. I'm good. I'm good. No, seriously, everybody, thank you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for indulging me. Thank you for a year that has been awesome, crazy. Yeah, I cussed out some of y'all, and some of y'all cussed me out, but it's all good. But I want to thank you all for your time. I'll be putting this show up on YouTube, and we'll be going from there. But everybody else, have a very safe and happy holiday season. If I don't talk to you before then, take care, y'all. Bye-bye.